the last several decades, we have watched the nature of warfare go from the battlefield to our infrastructure, from one nation openly waging war on its enemies to shadowy groups wreaking havoc on systems that we depend on. And based on recent reports and intel, this is really only just the beginning. Right now, systems that we depend upon on a daily basis are facing a continuous wave of threats and attacks from foreign nations, private entities, and even our own citizens. Now, experts warn that the worst is yet to come. Critical services are at a risk of disruption, and sensitive information could be compromised or deleted. In this video, I'm going to discuss the biggest threat that you probably will face this year, no matter where you live or how disconnected you feel from the grid. It's a threat that intelligence agencies and major corporations are urgently warning about. So let's talk about it. Lying in wait. Do you remember the hackers responsible for the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack that snarled the flow of petroleum in the eastern United States, which grounded flights and panicked motorists? Now, since then, they have been linked to other multiple hacking groups and attacks. In September of 2023, MGM Resorts, a major global casino operator, they experienced a cyber attack which caused disruptions across its operations for several days, impacting renowned properties, including the Bellagio, the Cosmopolitan, and the Mandalay Bay on the Las Vegas Strip, as well as other MGM resorts nationwide, resulting in an estimated $100 million in losses. The most shocking facts about this particular attack you need to know about are that it involved Russian hackers working with US citizens to call in, change a password, and gain access to an entire system. And it showed a frightening level of sophistication and coordination. In January of just this year, Microsoft and Hewlett-Packard, they both came forward and admitted that they had been enduring a perpetual attack from the Russian-tied hacking crew APT-29. And they were known to primarily target governments, diplomatic entities, non-governmental organizations or NGOs, and IT service providers, primarily in the United States and Europe. But still, they weren't locking up systems, they weren't ransoming files or anything so open. They were sitting in an unknown number of critical systems, servers, software, user profiles, monitoring systems, and more, and watching, waiting, and gathering increasingly higher and higher levels of information and access. They collected countless data files and passwords and opened up more pathways, backdoors, and windows into everything from server providers to prescription drug systems to streaming services. Then the director for the FBI and multiple very high-ranking cybersecurity professionals warned that hacking groups, mostly from China, had already gained access to many vital infrastructure systems and were just simply lying in wait, perhaps awaiting orders, possibly waiting for a specific date. But they were there. And he said you could close your eyes and pull an industry or sector out of a hat, and chances are Beijing has targeted it. Though they deny it, the country has targeted multiple sectors for years and stolen countless files of intellectual property. So the fact that they are there is not new. Like the Russians, though, they too seem to have entered a new phase where they're accessing higher and higher levels of critical infrastructure systems and just lying in wait, observing users, expanding their dark reach over our networks, perhaps waiting for the same D-Day orders to coordinate their attack. And when government agencies come forward, they're not only acknowledging the instances of activity that they've detected, but also issuing warnings about the high probability of ongoing, undetected incidents and the need to strengthen defenses against potential breaches of vulnerable systems. How bad is it? So you might make the mistake many are making and just simply dismiss this by saying such a thing couldn't really interrupt you because you aren't planning on vacationing or traveling, but that's just one of the preliminary high-profile attacks that we have seen. Each is more far-reaching than the last. Each reveals even greater sophistication, access, and coordination. Now I'm recording this video on Tuesday, April the 23rd. And at the time of this video recording, a report just broke out about this very thing in Texas where Russian hackers attacked a public water system, causing it to flood the town. And we've also seen an attack on our healthcare system that delayed thousands of people's ability to access their prescription drugs. And we're being warned that hackers are already in our aviation, water, electrical, and even national defense systems. When one part of the system is attacked and locked up, we have already seen the economic damage and chaos that it can cause. So what happens when an attack on two or more systems occurs simultaneously? Imagine waking up one morning and the power's out, transaction systems are out, and there's a rumor some bank accounts have been zeroed out. but you can't even log into your account to check it. You could skip work, you could navigate all the traffic lights that are out and drive to the bank, but they can't tell you what the status of your savings, checking, or retirement accounts are because they access the same systems, and they're closed because the power's out. You could drive home and wait, wondering if the cyber attacks might also have mixed chemicals wrong at the water treatment plant, why you can't place a phone call, or how long you'll be in the dark. The fact is that just one or two overlapping systems that are seized, destroyed, or locked up simultaneously will cause your world to flip upside down and stop completely. And here's the thing. The cyber network has no boundaries or barriers, even if you live miles from any one. From retirement accounts to pay systems to transaction systems to medical records to banking to point-of-sale terminals to telephones, internet, electricity, every piece of software and anything with a chip, it can all stop working if just one system of it interacts with it and stops working. How impactful this inevitable attack will be to you and how well you will navigate and survive it is more in your hands today than you might think. There are 3 quick solutions that you can plug in today. And the first has to be with protecting your data. Thanks to Incogni for this ad-free video. When you provide personal information online, you never consent to have it stolen, exploited, or used against you. Your name, address, gender, subscription, shopping habits, and so much more are all out there, just waiting to be snatched up by anyone with malicious intent and a few dollars. A hacker only needs to pull the little pieces together from any number of sites to start building a profile for you. And from there, they can do so much more damage. Think about the last time you received a spam call or even a phishing email. How did they know your name, email, or phone number? That's someone who got a hold of your info without your consent. And it's not just annoying, it's downright invasive. Incogni works tirelessly to scrub your data from countless sources, protecting you from identity theft, fraud, and invasive marketing tactics. You'll have access to real-time progress reports to see it working by the minute to get your information out of these data broker databases. I've used it for over a year now, and I've seen a massive drop in spam emails and calls. Incogni is risk-free for 30 days, meaning anyone can try it out and get a full refund if you're not happy with the service. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Use the code PREPPING with the link below and get 60% off an annual plan. Now, the first step is to understand that every attack, file theft, or level of access gain exposes your information to some really bad actors. Even if your name's not attached to your address or phone number or critical pieces of information are not included in the stolen files, they can be cross-referenced with other stolen data to create a composite profile of you. Rental agreements, reward programs, professional sites, medical records, subscriptions, location data, social media, time and location stamps on photos, purchases, browsing history, prescriptions, username, passwords, cell phone numbers, addresses, mortgages, credit histories, court records, taxes, and thousands of data files and data points. They exist about you and they're online. It doesn't matter how careful, how private, or anonymous you try to be. These pieces of data about you, they actually exist. And it might be just your location data from your phone that's sent to websites when you visit them. But in the right hands, someone might be able to connect that to movie ticket purchases and later correlate it to the text message data and so forth until they have a pretty good composite profile about you. Unless you really have a huge bank account, it's not likely that someone's just sitting in a cafe in Belarus or down the street from you, scanning through these data files trying to isolate just you. But AI and algorithms completely change the game. They can scan these massive files in just milliseconds and make connections a human would have to take days or weeks to connect. And these files are stolen from businesses or purchased legally from data brokers. It doesn't matter if you've opted out either. The data may not have your name or number directly attached to it, but it can easily be connected. Even Google recently had to pay a settlement for secretly collecting and storing browser data from its users while allegedly browsing the internet in anonymous incognito mode. Now, intelligence agencies worldwide have learned to use targeted ads, those ads that you get because you're at a specific location or you browse a particular term, to track the whereabouts of individuals, their movements, where they go to eat, and even who they're likely dating. It's a treasure trove of information, so it's no wonder that they are also seeking outright a loophole to access your data blatantly and even put you under surveillance even without a warrant. The NSA, for example, is asking for a loophole from a lot of these software agencies. But for every agency working within the laws, dozens more ignore international and national laws. Why do you think Congress was even discussing a TikTok ban? Thousands of individuals work the same systems to compile a profile about you. And gaining control of your digital footprint is really the first step. The How to Protect Yourself from Cyber Attacks guide that I've made available, you can find the link down below. It covers how to secure your systems quite extensively, but those combined will really only help to lessen your exposure to those inevitable attacks. You really have to take it a step further. Do this while you can. When the coordinated, orchestrated attack occurs in the not-so-distant future, your typical day will likely be turned upside down, and it won't be too dissimilar to the worst natural disasters that you could face. You will need to hunker down because a lot of people are going to be caught off guard and unprepared when they realize that grocery stores barely have 72 hours worth of food to feed the communities that they serve. You're going to need food stored when people come to that understanding that no supplies are coming in because the supply chain is stopped and transactions are not happening. Assuming transit companies could even track their shipments, they're still not going to send their trucks and trains into a dead zone that has been knocked off by the grid. And we've seen that to some degree. Gas trucks, for example, stopped making deliveries to parts of Texas when the electricity went out during the winter storms of 2021. We've witnessed that when the Colonial Pipeline was locked up by cyber attacks. Gas deliveries stopped in the impacted region. If it's a far more reaching system like GPS or communications, farmers might have to delay harvest. Food producers may have to halt production. Literally, everything you know and take for granted could temporarily stop. You may need water when people realize within 24 hours that they depend entirely on municipal water treatment plants and distribution. Even two seemingly disparate systems, loosely connected but seized up at the same time, can wreak a level of havoc on society as bad or worse than a natural disaster, except it would also be far more reaching, perhaps stretching from border to border with the chaos it causes. Now, first responders, government security forces, and critical workers will simultaneously defend and restore systems while they brace for further attacks. But they won't be supplying people with food and bottled water. And because of this, your preparations against cyber attacks really have to go beyond just securing your data. You must prepare for the fallout and repercussions of these attacks. Now, minimally, I suggest you have the food, water, and other resources to be self-sustaining for at least 3 weeks. This is something we preach a lot on this channel. And I would encourage you to assess your current preps and really determine if you are at this minimum threshold. You need to determine what you still need to get in place and act upon that before you run out of time, because the clock is ticking on this. Now look, these attacks, they're becoming more calculated, becoming more coordinated and intense. And there are a lot of signs that a date has possibly already been set to really unleash the worst attack that we've maybe ever seen in our lifetime. And as we earlier reported in a video just recently, leaked classified documents from the German Ministry of Defense indicated that a coordinated cyber attack from Russia could occur as early as July. And we know that we have hackers in our systems from more than just one hostile country just waiting and watching. The evidence of an approaching disaster is really as clear as dark clouds approaching on the horizon, signifying a challenging or difficult storm ahead. And I would encourage you to hear me when I say this. It's not a matter of if, but when these attacks will occur. There's significant evidence that it could be as early as this summer. And look, I make these types of videos to try to give you a heads up on real intel that's being provided to the public. This is not hyperbole or conspiracy material. I didn't pull this out of thin air. This is a readily available information within the public realm. We base this video on research, and there are indicators that we may see cyber attacks grow in size and reach over the coming months. And if you've even lightly surveyed the signs and warnings being issued, you can conclude for yourself how potentially bad this could be. Again, as I always point out, I want to ensure my community knows of potential threats and, more importantly, practical things they can do to prepare. And I think this looming threat fits the bill. I don't have any insider information or secret sources on this because I don't need any. When you have multiple intelligence agencies worldwide, major businesses, and some high-profile attacks all pointing in the same direction, it should be like a flashing sign on the road that the bridge ahead is out. And you can like, share, and bookmark this video and come back to it at the end of the year and tell me if I'm wrong. But trust me, I want to be wrong on this, but I don't think I am. There are many heads of state, business leaders, and cybersecurity experts who will all say the same thing. We've been attacked, we're currently under attack, and it's very likely that we're staring down the barrel of an attack this year that could be more devastating and far-reaching than anything we've seen before. So I would encourage you to take advantage of these free resources to insulate yourself from cyber attacks. And check out these 2 videos here on the side of the screen: how to easily build a 3-week emergency food supply, and 5 steps to prepare for cyber attacks. This threat will likely come to fruition this year. The extent of it is to be seen, but possibly happening this summer, possibly even on our election day in November, or maybe at both times. And you can't entirely avoid this, but like all disasters, there are things you can do now to lessen their impact on you. I hope you'll heed the warnings and take practical steps today. And as always, stay safe out there.